Agroecology offers a holistic response, providing practical, inclusive, and sustainable solutions that rebuild food systems from the ground up. Our theme this year, accelerating agroecological transitions for sustainability, reshaping policy, markets, finance, and practice for transformative change, speaks to urgency and transformation. We must move from dialogue to coordinated action that reshapes how we produce, trade, but also finance our sustainable food systems. As a network of 75 member organizations, Pelham Uganda has been at the forefront of advancing agroecology and smallholder farm empowerment for the past 3 decades. And this, I assure you, will continue. 3 initiatives such as the National Agroecology Strategy Development Process, agroecological schools and clubs, knowledge hubs, participatory guarantee systems, and agroecological markets. Pelham Uganda continues to influence policy frameworks that recognize and integrate agroecology, strengthen local markets for agroecological produce and farmer-managed seed systems, advance financial models that value ecosystem services and resilience, support knowledge co-creation and scaling of farmer innovations. As we deliberate today, it's key to note that Uganda's draft National Agroecology Strategy presents a strong opportunity to institutionalize agroecology within planning and agriculture policy frameworks. We believe that once this is done, then we'll have even the local governments integrate agroecology into their district plans, strategies, but also budget frameworks. We therefore appeal to the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries to fast-track its development, validation if need be, and adoption, ensuring multi-stakeholder ownership. When we started in 2029, the call was to look at the barriers and hindrances to why we are not scaling up agroecology. What came out as the #1 communique was to develop the National Agroecology Strategy to ensure we have a guiding framework to upscale agroecology. We have a draft members. I thought we would clap for that. Thank you so much. So we have a draft that the Ministry of Agriculture has been leading us through, and we are very optimistic that this will soon be passed. Agroecology connects and promotes value chains that are fair, inclusive, and rewards sustainability, and does not exploit farmers, but instead empowers them. We must reorient financing, both public and private, to reward long-term soil health, biodiversity, and community resilience rather than short-term productivity. Agroecology thrives when local knowledge meets science. Scaling agroecology requires farmer-to-farmer learning, youth engagement, and gender equality, which are very central to Pelham Uganda's approach. Let's use this symposium to build bridges between government, farmers, research, private sector, academia, cultural institutions for a common vision of sustainable food systems. We need to move from pilot projects to national programming, from fragmented efforts to coherent systems of transformation that are consolidated. Agroecology, my dear friends, is not a niche alternative. It's the future of sustainable agriculture and rural prosperity in Uganda. We are currently in the political phase, and everyone is talking about rural prosperity. We urge all of us present, in terms of our members of parliament, I know most of you are going to come back, and we wish you the very best. Please prioritize agroecology in your manifestos. As I conclude, I want to cultivate hope for the future. We must sow seeds of agroecology today. Now is the time. Together, let's accelerate the agroecology transition for the young generation, for each one of us in our individual capacities, for the world at large, for the planet, and for holistic prosperity. I remain Josephine Akia Luyimbazi, the country coordinator, Pelham, Uganda, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Josephine, for those very warm welcome remarks and giving us a space to interact indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, as Josephine was speaking, I was reminded of this statement. People laughed when a farmer said he speaks to his crops. And he said, my maize is growing wide and tall. When they asked him of his secret, he said, I don't use pesticides. I use positive vibes. Can we show vibe for celebrating 30 years of networking for a greener Africa? And we say, happy anniversary, Pelham, Uganda. I want to hear that. Indeed, we celebrate the 30 years of impact, and I'm sure the impact and the works of Pelham, Uganda will grow wide, will grow tall, and will grow deep. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to you good news that our chief guest is already in the house. We want to take this great pleasure to warmly welcome you for joining us. And without much ado, I want to invite the chairperson of Board Pelham Uganda to come and take the honor to invite our chief guest to come and speak to us. A round of applause as we welcome the chairperson.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again. I would like you to join me, first of all, in applauding the Minister of Agriculture. We cherish the relationship we have with the ministry. So join me in applauding it. I have this singular opportunity and privilege to invite my friend, Commissioner Crop Protection, Mr. Stephen Yantwari, to come and address this gathering. Thank you, Commissioner.
Another round of applause as he steps up.
Thank you very much. The Master of Ceremonies this morning, my good friend, Mr. Cheswa, whom I have known for a long time. I'm glad to see you this morning, sir. I am Stephen Tibejuka Biantwale. I'm the Commissioner for Crop Protection at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. This morning, registering apologies from the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture, Honorable Major Retired Fred Bwino Chakulaga, who was urgently summoned by the head of state to join him wherever he is. So he has sent in apologies and kindly accept. The honorable members of parliament present this morning with us, colleagues from the ministries, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Ministry of Education and Sports, and any other colleagues, representatives from the UN agencies. I understand we have FAO, we have WFP, development partners, and other partners who support us to do this work, the country board and management of Pelham, who are taking lead in this, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege to be here this morning on yet another momentous occasion as we reaffirm our collective commitment to scaling up agroecology in Uganda. Together, we strive to build a healthy, resilient, and sustainable food systems for current and future generations. Allow me to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all participants attending this 7th National Agroecology Actors Symposium, both in person, and I am reliably informed that we have colleagues who are virtual. This year's theme, Accelerating Agroecology Transitions for Sustainability, Reshaping Policy, Markets, Finance, and Practice for Transformative Change, aptly captures the urgency and ambition of our shared vision. Since 2019, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, in collaboration with the civil society actors, has convened 6 successful symposia. These gatherings have fostered knowledge exchange, co-creation of innovative projects, and informed the policy development processes. I wish to commend Participatory Ecological Land Use Management PELAM in Uganda, its member organizations, and all agroecology actors for organizing this symposium. Your efforts have brought together a diverse and dynamic group of stakeholders, including policymakers, government ministries and agencies, media, academia, research institutions, youth, women organizations, cultural institutions, civil society, farmers, and private sector actors from across the country. This spirit of collaboration is a testament to the leadership and stewardship of the National Resistance Movement government under guidance and leadership of His Excellency, the President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda. Currently, Uganda is globally recognized as a leader in organic agriculture. Of the 58 million hectares under organic cultivation worldwide, Uganda accounts for approximately 262,000 hectares. Within Africa, Uganda ranks second after Tanzania. And globally, we hold the 4th position in the number of certified organic farms, following Italy, Indonesia, and Mexico. I think we need to applaud ourselves for this. With over 210,000 certified farmers producing 115,000 metric tons of organic produce annually, Uganda possesses a significant comparative advantage in organic production. These farms typically range from 0.5 hectares to 4 hectares and above, and they represent about 1% of our total agricultural land. Ladies and gentlemen, organic agriculture contributes an estimated $223 million as of 2024 annually, accounting for about 17% of our agricultural exports. And currently, our agricultural exports stand at $2.7 billion US. With improved regulation and facilitation, Uganda has the potential to expand organic cultivation to over 500,000 hectares and certify more than 500,000 farmers, doubling our current production value. However, we must acknowledge the challenges that persist, and these include land degradation, pests and diseases, inadequate agricultural inputs and technologies, and the adverse effects of climate change, including prolonged droughts and erratic rainfall. These issues threaten agricultural productivity and hinder progress towards our Vision 2040 and the Sustainable Development Goals. But as government and Ministry of Agriculture, we have a mission to address all of these and transform our farmers from subsistence to commercially and viable, socially inclusive people. And central to this really is a contribution to social economic development. And agriculture is key to creating employment, combating hunger, malnutrition, generating revenue, and mitigating climate change. So with these agroecological efforts and our current strategies that are aligned with our agricultural value chain development strategy, we are ensuring interventions from production to the market, and these we are aligning for harmonized maximum impact. And this alignment and our efforts are again in line with the guidance by His Excellency the President on the 6 immediate interventions or priority areas for our intervention. One, and I would like also, as we develop our national agroecology strategy, to align to these interventions. One is the issue of seed and stocking materials to ensure availability and accessibility. And this should be aligned to the priority commodities, and also these priority commodities must align to the guidance on enterprise selection. You remember His Excellency has been stressing that we must do agriculture with the chibaro. The second area is appropriate mechanization, provision of water for production and irrigation. And these are to support us really in an effort to address climate change and also taking up appropriate technology. The other third issue is on pests, diseases, and vector control. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we can't access market with quality products unless we manage the pests and diseases across board. In livestock, in fisheries, in crops, and the rest. The fourth aspect is on farmer mobilization and sensitization. Our farmers need constant okuzuksa. We constantly guide them. Number 5 is the deliberate effort to support fisheries and especially aquaculture. We have over-concentrated on capture fisheries, but now the direction of government is that we support aquaculture. The other area is the deliberate effort to support large-scale farmers to produce strategic commodities for food and feed, and also for the domestic market and export. And this is where we are supporting commodities like Hass avocado, coffee, and others, and also maize, soybean for feed. And as we move along through this synergy, we reaffirm our commitment to transforming Uganda's agriculture into a resilient, inclusive, and globally competitive sector. And our government remains committed to empowering smallholder farmers and producer cooperatives through initiatives such as the parish development model. Through research and innovation, we continue to promote agricultural biodiversity, farmer-managed seed systems, which are the critical pillars of agroecology. And these are supported by operationalizing national and community gene banks, and also we are into providing enabling policies and legislative or legislation frameworks. And these include our National Agriculture Extension Policy, the National Organic Agriculture Policy. We have in place the Seed and Plant Act 2006 and the Sustainable Land Management Investment Framework that is drawing towards the end. Nonetheless, we recognize the gaps that must be addressed, and these include finalizing the genetic resources for food and agriculture policy, passing the Organic Agriculture Bill, and completing the national strategy for scaling up agroecology. Currently, it is in its final stages of development by the Ministry of Agriculture in collaboration with the PERAM Uganda and the other stakeholders. Our commitment to agroecology was way back demonstrated in 2021 when, together with non-state actors including PERAM Uganda, ESAF, NOGAM, and ACSA, we initiated the development of the National Agroecology Strategy. I am pleased to report that this strategy is nearing the level of approval. Its implementation will be instrumental in promoting sustainable and inclusive food systems across the country. Uganda is among the few African nations that have integrated agroecology into their updated nationally determined contributions, the NDCs. We are currently developing our NDC 3, which will be submitted to the United Nations Framework Conventions on Climate Change. In partnership with the PERAM Uganda, we are preparing a national position paper for COP30 to be held in Belém, Brazil in November 2025. This reflects our unwavering commitment to building climate resilience and advancing mitigation efforts within agriculture, forestry, and land use sectors. We thank PERAM Uganda and all partners for championing the integration of agroecology into these critical processes. As we move forward, the government of Uganda will continue to foster partnerships to expand the reach and impact of our agroecological initiatives. We therefore call upon all stakeholders, the government agencies, research and academic institutions, the private sector, NGOs, farmer organizations, and the donor community to strengthen this collaboration and financing mechanisms to support the implementation of the National Agroecology Strategy when it is approved. Together, let us accelerate the transition to sustainable agriculture and ensure a healthier, more resilient future for all Ugandans and the globe. I thank you very much for your attention. I say this for and on behalf of the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture, Honorable Major Fred Bugino Chakuraga, for God and my country. I thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, our chief guest, our good representative of the Minister of State for Agriculture. Thank you very much for putting emphasis on channeling and directing policies, aligning. Thank you very much. Can we give him another round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear that there is a call for aligning policies, programs, practices, and all resources to make agroecology not as an alternative, but as a new normal. We are very grateful for this emphasis, and the theme is very clear. It is inviting us to improve livelihoods without compromising nature, where a farmer is seen not as a beneficiary but as an innovator. Thank you very much for coming up with this very triggering theme that really puts all of us at a point where we can have the critical think through of how we can transform our food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to slightly change the program, but all is to our benefit. I would like at this moment to invite Dr. Joseph Sekandi to come and give us a presentation that is going to focus on the nexus for transforming African food systems. Dr. Joseph Sekande is the Dean of Faculty of Agriculture at Uganda Matters University. Join me in welcoming our comrade. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. For a fear of impersonation and all the crimes that come along that, I'm a former dean of the Faculty of Agriculture. Can I just say that I left 4 years ago, and I had served for 4 years. Ever since I left, they have had 3 more, meaning that perhaps I was an agroecological dean. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to be here. Thank you very much, Peram Uganda, for having me here. I am a proud pioneer trainer of agroecology in this country. In this room, we are proud of our alumni. Among them is Madame Josephina Akia. There could be a number of them, I think. I had the names. Yes, Clovis Kabaseke. There are so many of them. I'm also aware that there is also a very recent PhD graduate, the most recent one, Dr. Sarah Mayanja, of our PhD in agroecology. She's somewhere in the audience, but she's on the program. But that's not what I want to focus my energy on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, about us as the university, we started talking about things related to agroecology in 2003 when you introduced the Bachelor of Science in Organic Agriculture. That has changed now to the Bachelor of Science in Ecological Organic Agriculture. But in 2010, something else happened. There was a shift in our focus, and we started training master's students in agroecology. We are proud that this training has built the necessary capacity required to drive this agroecological agenda in this region. We have trained more than 470 master's students, but we have also in recent time graduated 9 PhD students in agroecology. There are quite a few other PhD students in this room. I don't want to mention them. They might think that I'm accusing them of lack of progress. But nonetheless, we are proud of that. That's our journey as the university, but I would like to stop that at that, and then focus on what has been given to me. Now, before I go ahead to talk about how agroecology can support agriculture, Africa's food systems, I want to put this into perspective at the national level of what we have observed. All the GDP figures indicate that this sector employs 41% of Ugandans. 55 of these are living in the rural communities that most of us come from. But also, as a country, we have observed that we have more than 1.42 million people who are projected to be facing acute food insecurity. And here, by the way, I am not incorporating the urban youth who are feeding on Chikomando, or a number of people, the middle class people who are feeding on less nutritious foods, those who base themselves on fast foods. Those are not in the figures. I'm actually talking about those people who cannot have the right portions in terms of size they need to live on. But also as a country, wherever we come from, we know that we have observed a number of climate shocks. We have seen post-harvest losses across this country. When they put it into figures, they estimate that every year we lose about $1.2 billion of what we would have gained if our production systems had been sustainable. Therefore, within the policy and strategy, we need to ask ourselves, how do we mitigate the other challenges of increasing employment, reducing the number of people who are going without food, reducing the losses we made from post-harvest losses, but above all, we need to observe, and this is within our National Development Plan, on creating employability. How do we create meaningful jobs out of our agriculture? How do we ensure that farmers, especially agroecological farmers, have better returns on what they do? How do we maximize the aspect of nutrition in what we produce over the years? The picture that is just about to flash up on your screen indicates everything you want to know everywhere across this country. This is how our agricultural landscapes look like. When you go to the Jikezi Highlands, you find a number of terraces, a number of scattered smallholder farming systems. When you go to around the Lake Victoria Crescent, you see a lot of sand mining and quarrying, so there's actually highly potential risks. When you go to emerging urban centers, there is leveling up of landscape to give way for construction. But also when you look at our forests, our rivers, there's quite a lot of siltation, a lot of degradation, a lot of less and less vegetation when you look at the exacting figures. Therefore, it is estimated that in a year, we have more than 40 to 40% of arable land degraded in terms of the practices we do. So the agriculture we practice degrades up to 40 to 50%. But we have also seen an increased need for settlement in arable land where people need to live. Our population is increasing. Whoever buys a 2 acres, they want to establish a homestead there. As soon as they make money from coffee, they also want to build up a rental there. They want to establish a store. So we are building up in areas that previously had been purely arable lands to set up settlement. Again, I'm not accusing this. I'm not saying that this is wrong, because people have to live somewhere. But let me make my point as we move forward. But when you look at below streams, areas below very significant ecosystems, there is quite a lot of erosion, vegetation loss, and bare lands observed below land. I'll come back to that. So that's the context of the picture we see across the country. That's what we see that is happening all over. Now, let's just look at these food systems that we're talking about in just one picture. What we think and what we have observed, that certainly nobody can, deny climate change. None of us in this room is Donald Trump. None of us in this room is a Chinese, where there has been a little bit of denials and, of course, saying that this is overrated. But at least everywhere we have observed that where production takes place, there are aspects of degraded soils, there is a reduction in nutrition, there are runoffs. These are things we observe on a day-to-day basis. But also, there is market volatility. My friends, every small trading center in this country has more than 5-7 agro shops with thousands or hundreds of herbicides, hundreds and thousands of fertilizers with different types of different label. So there's quite a lot of advertisement and quite a lot of promotion of inputs. Scroll through TikTok, you'll land on solutions for coffee, for solutions for banana, solution for beans, solutions for everything. Less of this content is agroecological. But that generation of the young ones and those slightly ahead of them, their source of knowledge, their source of information is TikTok, is social media. Agroecology is less there. We haven't reached there, but actually the people we want to target are there. When we move ahead, in terms of the current challenges, things that we observe, maybe climate change may be in abstract, but like it or not, across the country, we can observe issues related to food availability in terms of numbers, in terms of quality. If you have been attending these sessions for the last 10 years, you are wowed by the number of exhibitions farmers are making here when you go to the exhibitions outside. But so many of you who live around the cities, around Kampala, perhaps you see these foods again the next time you come back here. These are very scarce, these are very limited, but in our shops, in our markets, everywhere, there is maize, there is rice, there is beans, so there is actually less diversity. There are also issues related to nutrition. The health people in this room, if they are there, they will tell you about lifestyle diseases. They will tell you about the nutrition issues. The most, I would think, popular medical doctor in this country, if he is, I'm not sure about that, is Dr. Kasenene. And you know what he does? He tells people how to feed on greens, purely greens. People are reducing weight by 50 kilograms, by 40 kilograms, by only eating fruits and greens, agroecology. So there is actually a nutrition value in agroecology, but also there is need for us to deal with the climate change, the climate shocks. Like it or not, the things we have been growing over the years, as time goes, they become more and more susceptible to pests, more susceptible to droughts, and things like that. And of course, post-harvest losses. Now, what do we want to see in terms of the agroecology nexus? We want to see, the next picture that you'll see up on your screen is really a clear, holistic approach to managing food systems. We want to see approaches that are people-centered, that are considerate to the planet, and actually offer prosperity. The Honorable Minister or the President perhaps has gone. You cannot speak to government, you cannot speak to policy unless there is an aspect of prosperity. And by the way, also people are doing agriculture to make money. Maybe even most of us are here because we want to have money. So in terms of people, there is a need, if we want to achieve that, to have participatory decision making, to support people to make improvements in what they are doing, but let them be at the forefront of this. People take up innovation, people take up and technologies, but what we have not seen as much as possible is supporting people to be innovators, to create these solutions. In terms of the planet, like it or not, we've seen a number of degraded ecosystems, so there is a need for restoration. And I want to refer you to something I discovered about 15 years ago. Probably you can go on YouTube and search the same area. Uganda doesn't have even a quarter of the lowest plateau area in China that was restored. I want to refer you to that, to go and see the restoration of the lowest plateau area, on how much agroecology, how much innovation, how much local solutions can actually restore degraded ecosystems. In terms of prosperity, there are new emerging terms that we need to pay a lot of attention to, but these are very important. Issues to do with circular economies that are now replacing the systems, and agroecology is those who attended my class. Now there's a need to ensure that whatever we do is reused, is recycled, is repeated, and aspects of ensuring that the farmer is at the forefront of this empowerment of farmers. In a nutshell, and that's the last slide I'm going to say about scientific things, and I try to focus on practice. So we want to see production systems that are helping to conduct nutrient recycling and energy. We want to see enhanced biodiversity on our farms. We want to streamline or strengthening farmer knowledge, but also we want to build local value chain. You look at the CADA framework, you look at the Africa, we want Agenda 2063, you look at our Vision 2040, you look at our National Development Plan, the aspect of value addition to create more jobs is so important. We have not yet exhausted our capacity, and I think this is the call to action among all of us to engage in innovative approaches that support building local value chains. Now, what have we observed down the country? And when we did a survey across the country, these are the practices that we found out, and most of you who are living in these areas, I hope you can relate very well with these. I'm happy that there are narrow people here. I'm happy there are people from different avenues. Now, when you look at the Western Highlands, it has been observed and it has proven very successful that mulch and contour farming has controlled erosion over and over time and has supported the conservation and preservation of existing watersheds in Chigezi, in Mount Renzori. The GSA people are here who have been at the forefront of this. Clovis, my friend here, is also been at the forefront of that. So these are practices that over the years have proven success. Now I'll come later on to what we need to do about them. Around this area, the Lake Victoria Crescent Agroecological Zone, a number of people are involved in composite making, in biopesticides, in the coffee and banana systems. Now there is a challenge. A number of these have not been validated. A number of these are based in, and I'm sorry to use the word, speculation on these forums. This is indigenous knowledge, but perhaps it is indigenous knowledge that we can help to use scientific models to validate and promote further. The northern savanna zones, areas in Acholiland, they have been so much involved in the mixture or intercropping of maize and legumes, and these have enhanced soil fertility over the years. Now, the point I'm raising, my dear friends, and the call that I'm making to each one of us here, is that these are innovations that are rooted in local intelligence. We are in an age of artificial intelligence. There is a lot of local intelligence, my dear friends. A lot of it. These are rooted in things people have trusted, have tested over and over again, and they are also a go-to person, a go-to. Every time there is a setback, every time there is a loophole in a technology, the immediate return is that. We don't want it to be a fallback position. We want it to be at the forefront of the things we do over the period again. Again, the things we have observed over and over down the country is there's quite a number of emerging livelihoods, new livelihoods that people who are doing agroecology, these are being done in small ways, but actually people are making a lot of money out of these. One example is home gardens around urban centers. Seedling sales, you go down on H Highway, you find a number of people having these indigenous seeds, indigenous seedlings, but also there's also a bit of horticulture, that those who are dealing with the hybrids and things like that. But you can observe that there's actually a number of species, a number of endangered species that previously were scarce. They're now readily available, and people have turned that into really jobs. There's also a little bit of agrotourism. I don't want to give examples here because I'll be promoting people who have such business, but let me promote Clovis. Clovis's farm, the Triple F. It's an agrotourism. You reach there, there is enough that is produced, but also there is some income that is derived from that. My point is, dear friends, is that we have to turn our actions, we have to turn into the things we're doing to make real money, to make real revenue, because that's what we rely on. Also, we have seen increased diversity of incomes and livelihoods. I've talked about emerging livelihoods earlier on, but the diversity and the mixture of these, that people, one person doing so many different things. We've seen that in areas that have been faced with landslides, in the Mount Elgon area, areas that have seen droughts in the Karamoja region, a number of farmers have opted to derive livelihoods from other sources of farm tourism, like I mentioned, processing, sale of seedlings, supplies, and etc. So we are actually having more and more farmers now entering into what His Excellency talks about as the money economy. So there are gains that have been made. As I try to wrap up, I don't want to overspeak. There are gains that have been made that require scaling up. increasing in farmer participating in agro processing and value chain. If there is a farmer that you know that is still sells processed and unprocessed coffee, inform them they are making less money. Farmers now are carrying their coffee, taking it to the processors, and are selling coffee beans and walking back home with the coffee husks to support nutrition. Some of the emerging issues that require policy and practice as well as research. Now, what we have observed in terms of our intervention is that there has been less holistic protection of natural habitats or ecosystems. There's quite a lot of interest, even within these rooms among us, to conserve particular species. So if someone identifies that this species is medicinal, they'll pick it up wherever it is, take it to their homes, plant it around the compounds. This has become quite more common. A number of these are not integrated approaches. You go to our compounds and someone will tell you, this is tephrosia, this treats this is very good for nutrition. Well done. But again, we are taking them away from their natural ecological system. Perhaps you could be contributing to altering. So our call is to have a much more holistic protection of natural habitats and ecosystems. There's also less integrated systems. I think wherever you see, and I'm quite glad that now research institutions are coming to this platform. You can be my witness, my dear friends. A few years back, every time to see an agricultural scientist, a plant breeder, a biotechnologist in this room looked criminal. And I also asked people who are into agroecology, we never wanted to have to go into those spaces. I don't know. I keep referring to people, but since they are here, they will not be annoyed. Professor Chichewa is here. I remember one time in 2009, a professor in Makerere asked him, what is science in this agroecology? The discussion went very long. All of you who know Professor Chichewa, you can guess where it ended. But at least now, we are seeing more and more of different science backgrounds meeting and also wanting to contribute to agroecology. Let me just tell you and give you two examples. In the last intra-Africa academic mobilities, out of the 7 projects that were funded, there were 2 projects that were related to agroecology. Very recently, Uganda Matters University has been implementing a World Bank Center of Excellence on agroecology. There are so many of these indicators of progress, indicators of success that we can look back that perhaps we need to integrate and have a whole system-wide approach observation. We have also seen conservation programs on increasing numbers, less on diversity. We want to increase this species in number. We have to increase this because it's highly endangered. We are saying that yes, if we want to conserve a particular tree species, in its family there are several others. Can we have these? Why? There's also quite challenging issues around livestock and wildlife conservation. We are promoting free range. We are promoting these systems, but again, there are challenges that a number of our livestock, when they integrate with wild, especially the cats, the competition, and you find people want to kill these. These are things that are emerging that we can address from an agroecological perspective. Let me conclude with my call for action, what I think needs to be done by different groups to reach sustainable food systems. From the side of farmers, it is very important to strengthening existing cooperatives. And thank you very much, Peram Uganda. Thank you very much, organization like AFSA Uganda. Thank you very much, organization like Jesse in Rwenzori, ESAF, a number of them, I may not mention all these, that are working with farmers and ensuring that they are farmer cooperatives. These are actually holding our seed banks. It is so important that we scale up and increase the number of farmers who are signing up to belong to cooperatives, who are signing up to ensure they are participating in seed saving and seed management. From the side of government, we have observed in the last 5-10 years ago, a number of graduates of agroecology at least taking up leadership role of agriculture at district. I know 5 master's students who have graduated from our program who are now district agriculture officers. There are about 7 other who are principal agriculture officers. Yes, we have professionals who have trained and have capacity in this, but we do not see the same intervention agroecological approaches in practices, in support, in trainings, in inputs that are distributing to farmers. While we distribute fertilizer, while we distribute seed, while we distribute hybrid, improved seed, can we also integrate agroecology within our extension systems? Can we give it a chance? We haven't. From our side in the academia, I think we have succeeded very well in building the required capacity. There's quite sufficient personnel trained across. What we have not yet succeeded very well, and that's a call for action to all of us, is to really build up innovations that will help us scale up best practices. Innovation that can actually support. Now we have to leave maybe the work of advocacy to our colleagues in the civil society organization, to our colleagues in the NGO world, to focus on research. A number of these interventions that people are coming up, that indigenous knowledge are informing us, can we actually help to really build this further and expand it widely?
Okay.
In terms of donors, and we thank them, and also media, I think there is a need to drum up support a lot on agroecology. A lot is being done, of course, hence the call for proposals that we are seeing, hence the number of development partners that are supporting a forum like this, hence a number of these that are happening across this region. But this is something that we need to build. Now, the statement I have here indicates that transformation has to start when each actor takes full responsibility. There is no shortcut. Everybody, academia, civil society, NGO, and also individual farmers. In terms of another call for action is an application of science in agroecology. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting biotechnology. I think that is something we don't want to hear. But really, we can use scientific tools to help explain some of these things to all of us. I want to thank the civil society organization that have actually supported a number of interventions. We are currently implementing a program on participatory action research. This has been actually also a shocker to also ourselves. To engage, to participate, to ensure that farmers are engaged and also helping to find solutions. Some of the tools that can be used that I want to refer to you is system mapping and causal loops to ensure that at least farmers or people who are involved in agroecology can visualize these things, can see these things in real action. Participatory action research, there are now a number of integrated approaches that can actually help us understand whether our soils are healthy, our soils are good. For example, the number of earthworms, the organic matter, and etc. And of course, the biodiversity assessment before any production takes place. Those are things that for me, I think can be very helpful. Currently, in the academic world, we are working on developing decision support tools and mechanisms that can help us validate. Of course, we want to convince more and more people, not that we want to dilute this, but we want to get policy makers, we want to get donors, we want to get the scientists on board by developing tools that can help us project and clearly indicate how agroecology is supporting innovations. The other and the last thing I'm going to mention is gender and inclusivity. It's very important. I don't want to ever overemphasize on this. I want to thank you very much here, and I'll end it with a very simple quote here, that the future of food in Africa will not come from chemical factories, importance or drumming up the importance of biotechnology, but from fertile soils, diverse seeds, and empowered farmers. This is what agroecology is all about. I thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph, for such an incredible presentation. The insights that we have really shared, and we are very grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, he has reminded me of an earthworm that was leaving a degraded plot. And the farmer asked, "Where are you going?" The earthworm replied and said, "I'm going to the neighbor's plot," because for him he feeds his soil. Members, do you know that even an earthworm can migrate where the working conditions are not favorable? Dr. Joseph, thank you very much for putting emphasis on the protection of the natural habitats and the ecosystem. Another round of applause for him. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very much, and would love to really appreciate the joining of other members of parliament that came after the introduction. Honorable Margaret, we have to ask, thank you very much for coming. Honorable Boaz, thank you very much for coming. Honorable Brenda, thank you very much for coming. Honorable Michael, thank you very much for coming. Honorable Joel, thank you very much for coming. We are very grateful. And Commissioner John, I'm happy to see you. Once again, thank you very much, friends. And all of you that joined us later on, will be recognizing you, all of you in your respective capacities. Watch this. May I invite Daniel to give us a very inciting poem, and each one of you please pay attention. Let me call the teacher to come and join Daniel as he gives us a 1-2 minute. Yes, there is no we can talk about tomorrow, the future, and the sustainability without involving the young generation. I want to hear a very huge round of applause. Good job.
I take the opportunity to thank Pelham Uganda that has now brought us on board to attend this 7th National Agroecology Actors Symposium. I am Katsima Christine, a primary school teacher from Buhinga Primary School. I thank also, we partner with Jesse Uganda, that is joint effort to save the environment. We are here because they support us mostly at school, together with the KRC, Rwenzori region, that made us participate in SF Uganda that had organized a national poem competition. So we are here because Tumwine Daniel is now representing all schools at national level. We advocate for agroecology practices through basically demonstration gardens at school. As I've told you, also participate in competitions of debates and poems. So Tumwine Daniel is here today to present a poem that is advocating for agroecology practices. Here is Tumwine Daniel.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tumwine Daniel. I pupil at Buhinga Primary School, located in Fort Portal Tourism City, with a poem entitled A Symphony of Hope. A symphony of hope. In the fields of green, where life begins, agroecology's wisdom, a story to spin. A balance of nature, a delicate dance between the earth and humans, a harmonious trance. The soil's rich fertility, a treasure to behold. Compost and cover crops, stories untold. The microbes work tirelessly, breaking down decay, releasing nutrients in a never-ending way. The pollinators buzz in a joyful throng. Bees and butterflies singing their song. From flower to flower, they flit and play, collecting nectar on a busy day. The crops stand tall in a diverse array, a rainbow of colors, a symphony to sway, from maize to beans to squash and more, a polyculture's beauty forever in store. A farm's ecosystems, a web of life to survive, where every creature has a role of strife to thrive, from beneficial insects to soil-dwelling worms. Each plays a part in the agroecological farms. The farmer tends with love and gentle care, observing nature and listening with share, a beacon of change through the years, a connection to the land that dispels all fears. Therefore, let us grow roots and weave these tales of the earth to believe. In practice bold, our future retold. And in agroecology, we delight and achieve a symphony of hope. Thank you.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Exercise can't be sustained. Eating can't be stopped. It's even harder to lose weight. Come and give it a try. Genshikang L-carnitine chromium capsules, plant extract, scientific